William Powell and Myrna Loy, one of, if not the, definitive on-screen couple ever to appear on the silver screen. 1934's The Thin Man is hailed as one of the greats, especially due to the star's presence on screen. They were so electric that this film spawned 5 sequels that went on for 12 years. But is it that good? Find out this week on Debt to Cinema. I'm Stephen Montmanex.
And I'm Brian Gillis. Like most people, we love going to the theater and catching latest releases. However, it can sadly put a big dent in your wallet.
Fortunately, living in the digital age makes the viewing possibilities endless from the comforts of home.
Many of these films that you can see right from your couch, we're ashamed to say we miss, despite labeling ourselves cinephiles.
So join us as one or both of us cross off a title from our list of shame.
It can be an all-time essential classic,
or an underrated piece of cinema that's worth giving a shot.
Hell, it might just be some trashy film we want the other's opinion on. So sit tight and join us as we pay off our debts, $1 at a time.
What happened if it isn't Philo Vance? I beg your pardon? Who said that? I haven't seen you since you solved the Kettle murder case. How are you? Well, for the love of... Nick Charles, what are you doing up there? Impersonating a book cover? Shh. I'm working on a case. Don't tell me you've gone back to detective work. I thought you had turned respectable. Didn't you get married? Oh, didn't I? Vance, I married a girl in a million. I heard it was a girl with a million. Well, same thing. I've become a California gentleman. I never heard of such a thing. What are you doing here in New York? Well, it seems that Clark Gable is making some personal appearances here, which interests my wife. And there's a very good bar at the Ritz, which is all right with me. So we popped into town to play. But would you believe it? Before you could say Metro Golden Mare, I stepped right into the middle of a baffling murder mystery, and they put me to work. Oh, you poor fellow, you have my deepest sympathy. I can use it. Believe me, Vance, this case is a toughie. It all revolves about a tall, thin man. I was standing at the bar of the Ritz one day, reaching for an olive, when a very pretty girl suddenly popped up in front of me and said,
Hello there.
Hello. Another glass. How are you?
You know, we do know each other.
Certainly, we've known each other for years.
Aren't you Nick Charles?
Yes?
You don't remember me? I'm Dorothy Wynant.
How is your father?
Oh, that's what I came to ask you. He's disappeared.
Are you, anywhere near a solution? Between you and me, I think so. I got all the suspects together at a dinner party. And then I pulled a fast one. I told them, and the murderer is right here in this room tonight. He's sitting here at this table.
Interesting fact, kinda. You know, I've always heard of this movie. Like I've at least known the name, but I did not know until I saw this that the characters were named Nick and Norah. So now I understand the influence.
Infinite Playlist.
Exactly. And that movie's just becoming hipster trash more and more the more I grow up, which is kind of bumming me out because I liked that movie a lot in high school. That was one of those movies that I had on the background as
That was one of
time.
those. Hey, not Jonah Hill.
Michael
hey,
Cera.
look at Michael Cera. You loved him in Superbad.
Yeah.
Now he's doing his own thing with Kat Dennings.
No,
and
this was right around the time that we were kind of making jokes about him, because Juno was big, Superbad was big, and the mannerisms just got more and more. They were easier to point out and laugh at them. But anyway, this movie.
I mean, you didn't like it? That's weird. That's a weird pause.
It's okay. I see the appeal in just one aspect of it. It's mainly Nick and Norah themselves. That's the main thing that people walk away from. It's not the mystery at all. It doesn't seem like that's what people care about. And yeah, what are their names? William Powell and Myrna Loy. Yeah, they do have great chemistry, but I'm sorry, but just one little ingredient, one scene-stealing ingredient of the movie does not make the movie great if the rest of it...
Talking about them, or are you talking about Asta? Because Asta's a scene stealer. The dog.
Who's? You mean Snowy the dog?
No, Asta. Its name is Asta.
I'm calling him Snowy. I just kept thinking that's Snowy the dog. Okay, I know this isn't Tintin, but I'm just gonna call him Snowy. That's what I'm going with. I don't feel like there was enough of Myrna Loy and William Powell in this. I know that the mystery is not the thing that you're supposed to come away with, but it really felt like there was more of that, and it wasn't interesting to me at all. And so whenever they were on screen, it was electric. I was paying attention, but I did, and I did laugh a lot. My crowd laughed a lot, but I did find myself being bored for quite a few more stretches than I wanted to be, and I walked out thinking like, you know what, yeah, those bits are fun, and but I'm kind of forgetting them quick. Like I imagine that there are so many sequels to this movie, and that's probably
6.
that's probably they focus more on the relationship between Nick and Nora, I'm guessing. I don't know. Is this supposed to be the best one, or is there a sequel that's actually better? Because I have not seen any of them.
I haven't seen any of the others. I tried watching After the Thin Man, which is the first sequel. Jamie Stewart's in it, most notably.
Really?
And also Asta gets a love interest, which is kind of cool. I think I saw like the first 30 minutes of it maybe a year ago, and I fell asleep because the pacing, like this one, is also pretty slow.
Yeah. This is very, very early too. Like
Yeah,
you can,
this is
yeah.
34. It's just pre-code. Prohibition was just repealed like 6 months probably before this production started, and it's very apparent that like in most films of this era, they're chain smoking cigarettes. In this one, they're all alcoholics. Hey, come to our party, get drunk. How many drinks have you had? 6. Okay, well, get me 5 more. But yeah, I agree. I mean, this is the second time I've seen it. The first time was when I did a Blockbuster, the at-home DVD rental thing, the Netflix competition they did. So I did a free trial, and this was the very first thing I rented through that. My initial response back then was stronger, I think, than now. I didn't dislike it, though, but I do agree that there are some obvious pacing issues, which is strange for it being only a 90-minute movie.
I mean, this is really a back and forth with me of like, I'm laughing, I'm digging it. Like the party scene where...
Any of the party scenes.
Yeah, well, I mean, just the first one, though, the way that's written, how, Nick is just going from room to room, talking to everybody. It's like there's some really good writing there, and like a bunch of different things are happening. There's the guy that's trying to call his mom long distance, like so many different elements at play at the same time, and like it's just so well written, and it's a lot of fun.
This is a Dashiell Hammett novel.
Yeah.
Whose name came up just the other
Falcon,
night.
yeah.
Exactly. So him and Raymond Chandler, two of the most successful murder mystery writers of the time.
And I think
the
source,
Agatha Christie too.
And I think the source of this is that it's more focused on the mystery. Like the humor is injected in the script. That's part of the adaptation. I don't know. I mean, I've never read a Dashiell Hammett novel, so I don't know how how serious it is. But yeah, Maltese Falcon is way more serious than this.
This is revered not for its mystery, like you said, which is not a bad one. Like it's a very pedestrian, just cliche, like whodunit.
Well, I think that's the thing.
There's a little bit more to it.
I'm rarely interested or taken in by mysteries anymore. Like that's something I've been open about, and it usually does take more. And yeah, like this is that one element there, but it's like
Well, what I was trying to say is the reason it's revered isn't the murder mystery. It's that it's a rom-com. This is a hybrid. It's a romantic comedy murder mystery.
I wouldn't say it's a rom-com just because,
It is, though.
The rom-com staple is boy gets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back.
This is beyond...
They don't lose each other. There's no tension in that relationship. It's just fun to see them play off each other, but that's a very small supporting element of it for the main narrative, but it's not the main story. Like
the order that I put it is important. This isn't a murder mystery rom-com. It's a rom-com murder mystery. Like the whodunit is more important than the guy and the girl, but they are at the heart of everything. Is Nick and Nora. The franchise was about them, and they stayed in character throughout all the films. They didn't get anyone else coming into the frame.
I want to agree with you, but I just don't think there's enough Nick and Nora on screen that necessarily qualifies calling it that.
Definitely not Nora.
Yeah, I know. It's mainly just Nick. That's the thing.
Because he's the sleuth. I know as the franchise progresses, she becomes a much more pivotal role in the mystery. And there's like a couple jokes here about him being Sherlock and her Watson, which it kind of is. Without her prodding and her getting in the face of danger, he probably wouldn't take the case. Because that's what's fun here, and this is probably why it could have been a really fun remake if that Johnny Depp reboot ever happened. At this point, I doubt it will. Maybe someone else will get involved. But if you're able to really make them equals, because they are in certain aspects, but you know that he's the one people are looking for. It's all about Nick. He's the one that's throwing the parties, despite it's her money. He's the one that has the funny jokes, and she has like the quips on top of those. But I think I enjoy their chemistry, like their tandem. when in those party elements, it makes it a really fun experience, even if there is just drag, especially like the first 10 minutes or so when they're set up with the dad and the daughter and these gangsters roll. Like, yeah, you need that in a film of this nature to kind of get your interest about what's going on, but no one dies, which is really weird because like in Bay of Blood or Clue, most whodunits, you see the person die at least somewhat early on.
No one
and
does.
Here,
that's part of it being of the time that it was made too.
It's also part of the mystery. You don't know that he died until basically the end, and like that's kind of the reveal. That's when it gets interesting, and that's why that final dinner scene is so great. I think it's one of the best things in the film. It just the way that they kind of turn the parlor scene cliche into a much more dynamic experience. How all of the potential killers are present. You know all of their. All of them. You know their motives. They're all trying to fight. The cops are there. Like everyone's at play, and yet you don't know how it's going to end. Like even if you've seen this before, like I did, I still couldn't remember who it was. Like they all have motivation for having done it, or at least you think they do, and so it makes it interesting.
I want to agree, but at the same, I think just the main thing for me is plausibility, which I don't know. I guess there just wasn't enough for me. Like and. As great as some of the humor in the back and forth is, there really is some weird stuff in there that makes it difficult for me to, like, just enjoy. Like, I mean, there were a lot of people laughing at Gilbert, and I just thought Gilbert was fucking weird.
Talking about the detective?
No, the kid. With
the son? Yeah, he's
glasses, and it was just like
very bizarre.
It's very weird humor, and is that why it's supposed to be funny? Is because he's very weird, like.
I think it's
like
just...
he's just staring at what was it, one of the police
the detectives,
officers,
Gil,
and I'm just it's like I see on a very, very basic level why people are laughing in the audience that I was sitting this with, but why is this supposed to be funny? Like why is this here?
I don't think he's funny. I think that was just your audience like mocking him because he is the creepy academic son. He's always
I mean that's
like carrying a book and he's wearing glasses and he's talking about Oedipal complexes and let me examine the bodies.
I just don't understand the function of that here.
He really has, or not him, but Dashiell Hammett included a similar character in Maltese Falcon. One of the daughters is also a bookworm that knows more than she should, and so maybe that was just his writing style and incorporating...
Are we talking about the same... Are you talking about Big Sleep again, or Maltese Falcon?
No, I'm pretty sure it's in the Maltese Falcon. Because there's two daughters, right? And one of them is, like, the real brainy one that's always...
there's only the femme fatale. Yeah, Maltese Falcon, there's...
I need to rewatch those two, because this is the second time this week. They just... Sam Spade and Philip Marlowe characters just blend together. They really do in the way they're shot, and it's like one involves a falcon and the other. What is the other one? I don't.
Maybe it's you might be talking about Peter Lorre's character. Maybe I don't know, but that's just because I found that character very pathetic. That it was kind of hilarious, and there's definitely.
I remember in one of those films though that there is a daughter who's in books, and for sure in The Big Sleep. A bookstore is probably one of my favorite scenes where like he's talking to the girl, the clerk in the antique bookshop.
I'm pretty sure
and and he pulls the drapes down. And they have their little sex scene.
I think there's also the trailer for The Big Sleep, which is modeled like that of like Humphrey Bogart saying, "I want something like the Maltese Falcon." I think that's the trailer for The Big Sleep. Don't quote me on that, but
I haven't seen it, but probably.
I remember seeing one, but
yeah, I don't know. I don't love this movie. I really liked it the first time. I think it's just that I've seen more noir since then, and this isn't really a noir film. Like it kind of predates that. There isn't a cynical worldview. Like just how fun Nick and Nora are and their witticisms and the little innuendos they have and the fact that Nick is drunk for the majority of the film. Like when the first times you're introduced to him, he's at the bar and he's teaching bartenders how to make drinks and he's like dancing and he's like, with the martini you always got to do the Charleston, and it's like with this you got to do this, and the whole joke there is that he's making his own drinks in a bar and getting drunk for free, basically.
There's a bunch of great stuff. There's him playing with the little
the BB gun.
When he's for Christmas. Yeah.
And
then of course Snowy the dog. There's
it's
a ton
Asta,
of,
man.
I'm calling him Snowy. He looks
it's
like
not
Snowy.
Snowy.
He
it's
looks
Asta.
like Snowy though.
It's just a terrier.
I'm sorry, I grew up with Tintin. It looks like Snowy to me. But, you know, I don't know. This could be, as it seems like it's been like that recently for movies that are classics, it could be overhype.
Maybe.
And even the introduction for this, they said, yeah, don't worry about the mystery. You know, the focus is on the back and forth between these two characters. But they just felt more like scene stealers for me as opposed to the actual movie. Like, it felt like if you're sitting down at a repertory screening of for Cop Out of all things, which will never happen.
You don't know that.
Maybe at the New Beverly, and they just
could
said,
happen.
oh yeah, like, you know, this movie's about Sean William Scott. He's like the funniest thing in the movie. Well, he's not the fucking movie, but he's the guy that steals every fucking scene in there, and he probably gets like 20 minutes of screen time in like a 2-hour movie.
Well, the difference here is, though,
but that's kind of what this feels like. I mean,
it
yes,
isn't,
okay,
though.
there's more
they're
than
not
that.
scene stealers. Like,
but it
they
feels like
are
that.
what's important. The couple is what matters, and that's why the franchise was,
but
boosted or like started because of them.
And maybe there's sequels that follow along with that, but just based on the main plot of this, which is focusing on this mystery, yeah, it's not carrying these two characters together at all. So, my interest is kind of going back and forth, and I was kind of impatient part of the time, going like, when am I going to hang out with these two again? I want to see them go back and forth.
I know.
I don't give a shit about this by the numbers mystery that barely. It's barely interesting to me. Not because it's bad. It's just it's not very captivating at all.
If you want to see the next one, I know after The Thin Man, this ends with them on the train going back to San Francisco. I'm pretty sure after The Thin Man starts exactly when this movie ends. Like, they just got home from their New York trip. Ass is excited. They're excited.
No, here we go again.
And right again, yeah, something else happens. They're forced into another mystery, because that's what's fun here. Usually when you're watching a sleuth film or something about a private eye, they get hired or someone comes to them and dies and they have to take the case. More than half this movie, Nick is like, no, I don't want to do it.
I don't want to, yeah.
No, thank you. Like, I'm retired. I'm trying to have fun. I'm trying to spend all my wife's money. And there's that really great line at the end when he finally solves it, and the reporter's like, they're taking the photos of their like congratulatory whatever, and he has that line where he's like, yeah, someone's like, what? So tell us about the case, and he's like, it's put me behind on my drinking, and then he pours himself a new drink. I don't. It's just how cavalier he is, and also she is. Like I said, that they're equals here. I think that's why this is just a classic. It's not the way it's shot, despite it having some really cool cinematography. I like the transitions and in particular the way it opens with how long the takes are. Like
just the
minutes
montages too. How that you see the papers
with the
and
Thin
stuff,
Man and,
which is
and
not
the newspaper
first time.
shots.
Yeah, it's not the first time we see that. And I saw Citizen Kane recently. There's a bunch of those in there
similar.
that are cool. Yeah, but just stuff of this era that's like, you see maps superimposed on there, and like
I really like when they're putting out the all points bulletin to catch the Thin Man, and there's a literal net that comes pulled out of New York City and goes across the country. Like, so
you're not the
cool.
only one. Like, I was in a theater, there were people that actually kind of gasped at that, and I thought that was cool, but I was surprised that it got that reaction. That's fucking awesome, honestly.
It's a really cool special effect. Like, I don't know how they did it. Like, it was probably like they had a map and they shot that, and then they shot the net coming out and they superimposed it really well. But even still, just to come up with that kind of shot, even by today's standards, would be really great. And it wouldn't be nearly as good.
Anyway.
Exactly, because
it would be done digitally. But
digitally, it wouldn't look as good, because that this is in the same way when we're talking about The Invisible Man.
You can look at the Indiana Jones movies, which I'm sure Crystal Skull did it digitally, but
you're talking about the plane on the map with the arrow going.
It's like, which it's known for that. I'm sure Crystal Skull did it digitally, but Raiders is probably a practical example that you can use.
Yeah, but back to my prior point about them being equals. So you're introduced to Nick. He's teaching these bartenders how to make a drink. He gets one for himself. He sits down. Nora comes out. First time in the film. Well, Ass is introduced first. But she sits down and they're having a conversation. And she's like, how many have you had? And he's like, this is number 6. And then she's like, okay, bartender,
5,
give me 5 more so I can catch up. Like, it's one of her first pieces of dialogue. Everyone in the bar is like, oh, you can't bring the dog, and Nick's like, no, it's okay, it's my dog, he's a good dog, whatever. And it's kind of also seems like his wife isn't allowed too. Like, there's only men there, and yet one of the first things she does is, state to not just her husband and the people in the bar, but to the audience, like, no, I can drink as much as he can. I can be here too. We are equals. And I think that's probably why people love it so much. It's not that he's the funny one and she's there for the punchlines. Like, they share jokes freely. It is a really nice back and forth that you don't really get even today. Like, either the man or the woman. Look at something like Trainwreck. It's like, yeah, Amy Schumer's funny. Bill Hader gets like no jokes. Like that's in, like you said, this isn't a rom-com. Maybe it isn't, because yes, their romance, their relationship isn't what's pivotal. It is the story. It is the mystery. But you do get this really beautiful just relationship. Like there isn't any downside to it. It's not on, it's not whatchamacallit, on the rocks, not on the rocks. It's not going anywhere. They're happily married. They're not fighting or anything. And then you get that really kick-ass moment where he knocks her out to save her,
Yeah.
which comes out of left field. He just like punches her in the face, and the cops are like, "What? Who did that?" He's like, "I did. She was in the line of fire."
No, I mean, like, that's the thing. We could keep talking, like, just about the moments that we think are funny with the both of them. And, yeah, that's the thing, is that these are great characters. Absolutely. I just don't think that, there's
The
no...
movie is great,
There
yeah.
really, there's no movie shaped around them. It's just great characters in a very blah movie. Like, okay, you want a great back and forth with a story that actually utilizes its characters to tell that story. His Girl Friday, Cary Grant and Rosalind Russell.
That's also because
yeah.
just the pace of that movie, how fast they fucking talk.
Exactly,
like,
but I mean,
it's crazy.
That's a story that they belong in, where everything that they do just moves it forward. I mean, it's an okay mystery, but you got these great characters that
I think the difference,
they just say and do funny stuff. I mean, that's why they feel more like scene stealers to me, and I just don't feel like there's enough of them in the entirety of the film. Like, it really felt like when they came back, it was like, okay, it's a little ray of sunshine, but then we're back to the mystery that I just don't really care about. I mean, I really do feel like the praise is somewhat misguided, honestly, just because the focus is on the characters, but that doesn't mean that the entire rest of the movie is great to me.
I think that's fair, and I think on a rewatch you might be a little nicer to this film. But I think the main difference between this and your example of His Girl Friday is that His Girl Friday was a play. So,
Yeah.
And when you watch the movie, they never leave the press room. They're always there, and you can tell it's a play. Like, despite it was Howard Hawks, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's my main thing with this movie, is that it's not, story comes first, and like,
my
you gotta
point is,
utilize characters in a way, but
what I was
I
getting
think is
at,
that this has great characters and they feel like scene stealers. That's basically it to me.
What I was getting at is, with His Girl Friday, those characters are already written that way. They were in the play. It was a successful play. They made a movie. Plus, you also have great performances by Cary Grant and who's the other lead in that? Rosalind Russell something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, just a really great performances. It's a great script. Like, the characters are amazing. And whereas this, you said you haven't read the book. I haven't read the book either. I would have to assume that it was a good seller and it sold well, not for the characters, because on the written page, it's hard to make you laugh out loud. There isn't chemistry like that usually in a novel.
I don't think this is Dashiell Hammett's writing. I mean,
exactly.
I've never read anything, but like, you say Dashiell Hammett, I think Maltese Falcon, and I think that the dialogue, just everything.
I think
in that
Double
movie
Indemnity
might be more along those lines. Did he do that?
Yeah, it's his only screenwriting credit.
I mean, they're both similar in that way.
No, well, I'm just saying, like, he wrote that screenplay.
He actually wrote that. So
yeah.
Maybe, and shit, is there voiceover in the Maltese Falcon? I have not seen it in forever.
Probably there definitely is in Indemnity. But it's incorporated so well with an actual speaker box that he's recording. Fred McMurray is actually recording into. But I just feel that the reason you feel this way, and I do too, to a certain extent, is because on the written page in the novel, the Nick and Nora characters weren't what was important. Like, they might have been charming or whatever, but it was about the mystery. Like, that's what Pulp Fiction was like. That most of the examples that I've seen, like, if you look at even Sherlock Holmes, it's about the mystery on hand. That's why it's titled that. It's not necessarily about Watson and what Sherlock are doing. Whereas this, on film, right after Prohibition, at the time, with what the culture was going through or coming out of.
I mean, this is the Great
That they're
Depression too, so I can
yeah.
definitely see this being great escapism at the time.
I think it's just the Clash that you have a problem with, because if this wasn't funny at all, it'd be a fairly bad movie,
Yeah,
because the mystery
well,
isn't
that's
great.
the thing. It's one
And
element that does not affect the plot or the story or any growth whatsoever, but
however, though,
saves it from being a total waste. I just don't think that makes it a great movie. I really don't.
however, if there wasn't a mystery and it was just the characters, it would still be amazing.
Well, but I mean, it's like, okay, it's the same. I joke about it, but I bring up that Cop Out comparison. I don't think Cop Out's a great movie. I don't think it's that good a film. Like, and
barely-
yet Sean
I know
William
there's a
Scott
mystery
was
there.
the best part of it, and I freaking laughed every time that he showed up in there.
I know
Just
there's a
because he's
mystery
great,
there.
though, I'm not going to
Right.
praise Cop Out.
I don't remember at all the plot. I just remember Tracy Morgan and Bruce Willis working together, and
It
then
centers
the cat
around a
burglar.
baseball card.
Was
and
it? Oh,
Bruce
yeah, that's what it
Willis
is. Yeah.
and just
And
tracking them down. But I mean, that's the thing, is that I'm not gonna praise the movie just because I like those 20 minutes with Sean William Scott a lot, and I was laughing my ass off. Like
that cat burglar stuff
it was
is
not
amazing.
able to hold my attention for interest for most of the rest of it. So I just just because this is on one of those all-time great films lists, because it's so revered and because it's so old that, like, it almost feels like you have to like it. It's like I can't give it a free pass if I wouldn't give Cop Out a free pass.
I mean, I watched this digitally. I watched it. I
Oh
streamed
yeah, I
it.
watched this in an old, like, a historic theater with a packed audience on 35 millimeters. So, like, I had the ideal setting. That set the mood perfectly. And, like, yeah, as an experience, like, just for, like, it's like stepping back in time. Yeah, that was cool, but still, like, reflecting on the movie, I just don't.
doubt they were smoking in your theater, but
Oh
yeah,
no, they weren't.
I take your example.
No.
But what I was getting at is, I streamed this. I really thought, I gave it a good thought, and I might still do it at some point soon, of buying the box set that I've seen at Amoeba. I've also seen on Amazon, eBay. Like, I saw a great listing on eBay for $20 with all 7 or 6 movies, and it comes in a cool slipcase. When I've seen it in person at Amoeba, I think it was like $60 or $70. And because, this isn't the best movie ever made. It's not the best mystery. It's not the best comedy. But I think there's enough good here that the writing is so snappy that perhaps they are scene stealers, which I wouldn't use as a descriptor, because every scene, for the most part, after the first 10 minutes, one or the both of them are present. But I just
it didn't feel that way to me.
I love these characters so much, even though I've only experienced them twice now, that I want to see the rest of the franchise. I wouldn't be apprehensive to a reboot. Like, I was excited about that potential Johnny Depp remake, if that was going to happen, and maybe it could after he does The Invisible Man for Universal. And with the way that the mystery is going, I mean, look at our recent Debt to Cinema selections. The Nice Guy, Girl on the Train is in theaters later this year. Gone Girl is a huge success. Gillian Flynn, like, huge author, Gillian Flynn rather. That I think that it's a possibility, and for no other reason than the way that this just juggles its comedy and mystery elements so well, which is something that I don't think I've really ever seen outside of Clue and Neil Simon's Murder by Death, which I don't think you've seen either of.
No.
Yeah, so maybe not the latter, because I saw that not too long ago, but Clue, I think it owes a lot to this film. Not in terms of its story, but just the way it's able to make you laugh while think and go, ooh, ah, ooh, ha, ha, ha. But I think, I can't buy this one for $1, but I think everyone should check it out, especially just because of the time period and how fun it is and how short it is, too, because if it had a really great mystery going on, like, perhaps it would be amazing. But even still, like your pre-show said, I think it's mandatory viewing just because of how fun Nick and Nora are. And it's hard in cinema, especially of that era, to really have that kind of chemistry. And usually when it happened, they reteamed time and time and time again. So it's fun that this was all within a franchise, and that it lasted a long time, too. I think it went from, like, 1934 to, like, 48 or something like that. So
No, definitely post World War II. But Yeah, as far as like, I would not buy the box set like you.
I want for $20. That's pretty cheap.
I think I would watch the YouTube compilation of the best scenes and best
That's
moments
horrible.
with them.
Don't do that.
Well, that's because it really does feel to me like there aren't that many. Like I know we disagree on the term, but they really are scene stealers to me. Like it really doesn't feel like, I'll say it again and again. It just doesn't feel like there's enough of them in this movie to even consider for me to call it a movie with them both as co-stars. But maybe, yeah, I would definitely try checking out the sequels, just going in order, and maybe there's maybe there's more of both of them, and they're more utilized into the plot, and it could be more fun. I don't know, because they would probably the studio would be more receptive to what the best parts of this movie are.
I mean,
I
think
don't know.
about
Who
it.
knows? But
Think
I
about it
mean,
this way:
yeah.
the title, "The Thin Man," has to do with the the guy who dies. It's about him. It's about he's the Thin Man.
Well,
And
I
like, this
I was thinking
isn't-
about opening with a joke of saying "thin man," huh? Well, this is a thin movie, but
Yeah, that's
that's a
bad.
horrible joke. Yeah,
It's
but
not horrible, but I mean, to Brian Singer on Letterboxd, his review for the Do-Over was,
Matt
if
Singer?
this was Matt Singer, he was like, if
Yeah.
this was the Do-Over, I'm afraid to see what the first one was like.
Okay, I'm not gonna go that far.
I've said,
I'm
like,
not gonna
that's-
go
that's
as far as,
basically
I
what
don't
your
want to know
joke
where
was.
that comparison ends, but I'm not going that far. No, I enjoyed seeing William Powell drunk way too much.
Thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure. If you like this show and you want to hear more of our wonderful voices on a weekly basis, check out 2 Cents. I'll recap what's happened in film, TV, and tech news.
We're also on the titular Dollar Review Show, a spoiler-free critique of new releases or anything we've discovered on our own, whether that be TV, music, etc.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
We're available on iTunes, YouTube, TuneIn, Stitcher, and constantly looking to expand to other platforms.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Death to Cinema request, or if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BryonGillis, and now you know how to spell the email too, and also under the same name on the lovely site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films that I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at @s_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change.